Hello, this is Greg Allison with Green Greg's Garden and Worm Farm, coming to you on the 20th of March 2021, the first day of spring, and waiting an hour or two of daylight, that is, of this first day of spring 2021. I want to talk to you about potworms, and I don't have any, but a lot of you do, so we're going to talk about them. How is it that I don't have them? I used to. So I'm over here by one of my sled bed worm beds, about to do some feeding and watering. But I just wanted to talk to you about this because it's come to my attention. Some people have been asking about potworms. So what about potworms? Potworms are skinny little white worms that even when I had them at first, I mistook them for baby redworms. And a lot of people do. But what you'll discover is they never mature into large redworms because they're not. They're a worm that we call a potworm. So, hey, I'm going to do a quick shameless plug. If you're not subscribed to my channel, please subscribe to my channel and bang the notification bell. I'll be bringing you more videos about worms, about gardening, about greenhouses, and about growing your food, eating from the weeds and the trees, and what's going on in this world. I do some videos I call my head on a swivel, eyes wide open, head on a swivel news, because there's a proposition in this channel to help you thrive, survive, and stay out of the hive. All right, all that said, also you can support this channel. Right now it's time to be planting. You need to be buying your seeds for your garden or to grow microgreens. I do videos on how to grow microgreens and garden. Check all that out. But you need to buy your seeds now. So go to True Leaf Market. There'll be links below in my show notes and in the pin notes to True Leaf Market. Great deals. Check out the link from my channel to True Leaf Market. It'll help me and help you. And they've got a whole lot of seeds to select from, and even tell you how to grow them, and supplies, especially for microgreens. Everything you need to grow microgreens, you can get there. And I got videos to show you how to do that. Okay, let's talk about worms, and we'll talk about potworms. Now, I got these redworms. I'll have to do some videos on telling you the difference between redworms and other stuff. You can see a few worms in this bed. This bed don't have a lot of worms in it, but what you won't see in here is potworms. So the difference between a baby redworm, a little bitty baby redworm, and a potworm is that a baby redworm, well, they turn red pretty quick, but they've got, see, there's a little baby. That one's already reddish, but you'll see a blood vein running down the middle of a little redworm. So even the little ones there are already kind of reddish. Some of my worms have a little bit of a bluish color to them, but that don't mean they're blue worms. You can't always tell by color, and I'll tell you in a future video how you can tell them apart. But there's no potworms in here. Now, potworms are just little bitty long stringy white worms, and they're purely white. Like I said, even the babiest, tiniest baby just hatched out redworms will be white when they first hatch out, but they're not potworms, and you can see a blood vein running down. You're not going to see that in a potworm. That's one way to tell them apart. Well, what do you do when you got potworms? Well, a potworm isn't going to hurt your worms, but they'll compete and eat the same stuff that your worms eat. So the potworms kind of compete with your worms, and you don't want a whole lot of them, and they're not pretty, to be honest. Unlike these cute little worms, see? They're not cute like these little worms, so you really don't want potworms in your beds. Now, what you do about potworms? Well, potworms like acidic soil or compost, and they like it to be really wet. One way you can get rid of them, just kind of dry your compost out some, but you don't want it too dry because these guys need moisture. Because the worm, as I've covered in my other videos, they actually survive by breathing through their skin via the moisture in the compost. They exhale their carbon dioxide into it through their skin, and they take up oxygen through the moisture itself, right through their skins. That's how a worm breathes. So they got to have some moisture. You can't have the bed too dry. But then again, potworms like it wet. They're fairly wet. That don't mean they can't survive when it's a little drier, but the best way to get rid of potworms is the same way that I've told you in my video on 5 key things on raising worms. If you're not checked that out, then you need to. That's the most popular video on my website. Over 400,000 views now and going up. So the best way to get rid of the potworms is to put a little calcium carbonate in your bedding. Now, you can get that through eggshells if you grind them up real fine, I mean real fine, and distribute them, sprinkle them in your bedding, and maybe moisturize with just a little bit of moisture. Again, the pot worm lots of water, so you don't put too much, but you need just enough to help it dissolve. Or I like to use pure crushed dolomite, pure crushed limestone. Don't use the garden lime. Garden lime is chemically treated, and their chemicals are not good for your worms, okay? So don't use garden lime in your worm beds. I'll probably start selling lime one of these days, straight from the quarry. That'll help you guys out. I'll plan to expand my products through that. Okay, so if you put the lime in, another thing you can do is wood ash. Wood ash is another way. What you want to do is you raise your pH. You know, we're talking highly acidic beds is what the pot worm likes. So you don't want it highly acidic. Wood ash works too. Dilute wood ash, and it get it moisturized a little bit. But that's another way to help get rid of pot worms and insects. Insects also like an acidic bed. So it's pretty much the same kind of treatment to get rid of insects. It will work on soldier fly larvae to a bit, but once they get that thick gray skin on them, those soldier fly larvae are like tanks. Ain't nothing going to bother them then. But when they're white and real little, you can get them. But if you don't get a soldier fly larva real fast, now a lot of people like soldier flies and they feed them to their chickens, but a soldier fly will eat your compost up. So if you're trying to make compost, you don't want soldier flies in it. And so to some degree will the white worms, the pot worms. So you don't want pot worms, and you don't want the soldier flies. But anyway, now see, one thing you can tell here, this bed has been well fed, and it's got a little bit more feed in here than some worms. There's not a lot of worms in this bed, so there's not much point in me feeding this bed because they've not ate the feed that's in here. You don't want to overfeed. Overfeeding leads to an acidic bed. An acidic bed, I might even sprinkle a little bit on here, but an acidic bed is what leads to the worms. But I use pure crushed dolomite, and thanks to using pure crushed dolomite, I don't really have a problem. And I've not had a problem in years and years and years and years with pot worms. But I had them at first, and I thought they were baby worms. They just wouldn't grow up. What's wrong with these worms? I should have zillions of redworms. So that's what it is. And that's how you treat them. That's how you get rid of them. And they won't hurt your worms, as I said. I'll just repeat that one more time. They don't hurt your worms, but they do compete with them. And you don't want that. And they compete for the compost. And you're trying to produce your compost, so you don't want that either. Okay. All right, enough said of all that. So, again, subscribe to my channel, bang the notification bell, and click all if you've not already done so. Share my videos, because I'm going to do a lot more on raising worms. Just check it out, guys. My sleigh beds, sled beds. I got in-ground beds back there. See, I built these in-ground beds to try to keep moles out, but something got in that one on the right. So I've got me some, another way to get rid of moles is castor oil. I bought me some, I've been using castor oil liquid. I'd spray up. I can't seem to find anymore, so I got some granules. I'm going to try to sprinkle that around. You won't find, everybody great, but just find where they run through the ground and put chewing gum in there, or put, all these different little traps and stuff like that. Ladies and gentlemen, I could have a woods full of moles, and you're not going to see a single mole burrow out here. They go deep in the woods. You don't see the burrows till they get to where the worms are inside your beds. Then you'll see them. They will in a week or two wipe out your worms completely. So moles are an enemy of your beds, and one good way to treat them, just try to build your beds where they can't get in, and then use the castor oil. And moles can climb. I'm surprised to find out just how well those little suckers can climb. But anyway, so again, check out my video, 5 key things for raising worms. All right, enough said. Hope y'all enjoy the video and pass it along. Thanks, guys, for watching. Bye-bye.